Let's solve Leetcode question 130, surrounded regions. And this is our median Leetcode question. So give a MN matrix board containing X and O. If you look at the example here, there's X here, there's O here. Capture all regions that are four-directionally surrounded by X. So this question, if you're traversal the graph, make sure it's four direction, up, down, left, and right, not diagonal. A region is captured by flipping all O's into X in that surrounded region. So if you look at the example here, there's X and there's O here. And if in the end result, if a O is in the middle section, then it will change all the O's, flip them into the O. That's the function that you need to write. And if you read this part, it surrounded region should not be on the border. So you want to make sure that all the O's on the border cell, that is not get flipped into X, because you want to keep the O as O. Any O's that is not on the border, it is not connected to an O on the border, will be flipped into X. So that means that if there's a O, this example, it doesn't show you. If a O is connected, if this guy is not an X here, this guy is a O, it should be flipped into, it should not be flipped into X, because according to this sentence, is that any zero that is not on the border and it is not connected to an O on the border will be flipped into X. So this is something you definitely need to pay attention to. Two cells are connected if their adjacent cell connected horizontally or vertically. And it gives you another example here. X is already X, so you just keep it as X. And here's some constraints here. And this is an interview question asked by Bloomberg 6 times, Google 5 times in the last 6 months. And if you wanted to take a look at this question, it's actually for this kind of question, you probably think about use either depth search or breadth search. The only tricky part is that it only wants you to the tricky part is that it really wants you to keep the border cell as O, right? Also the cell that is in the middle that are connected to the O is, if it's O here, you want to make sure it's O as well. But then the rest of the cell in the middle section, you all wanted to flip into the X. So let's say, so I'm going to use depth search for this case. The idea is that if you want to reach the end goal, the way that you can do it is that you can use depth search, but only run the depth search on the border cell, like the borders here. So what you're going to do is that first you're going to run the depth search function should change the O to a different character. Let's say something like E. Change this to E, and then I'm going to run depth search on this E's neighbor to make sure I capture those, and I'm going to call the depth search function on all the border cell so that they all get, all the O's on the border get flipped into E. And then for the middle section, it's actually really easy. I don't even need a depth search function for the middle section. All I need to do is just go through every single cell and just change all the O's to X. And after that, if there's any cell, remember I changed this guy, the border ones, to a different character, like E. You can use any characters that you want. We want to make sure we flip them back to O as the end goal. Basically, that's the thought process. And I think you will understand this when I show you how to do this in code. So let's first rule out some edge cases. So if not board or not board 0 here, then I'm gonna return, right? And so then I'm gonna define this rows and columns and its length of the board and length of board 0. Yeah. So let me just write the depth search function for the border cells so that we can call it depth search function. What I'm gonna pass is the parameter is RC, basically the row and the column number. So if the row and column is inbound, right? So I'm gonna say if it's 0 equals to R and smaller than rows, and 0 smaller equal to C smaller than cols, basically inbound, and board RC. So basically the value is also O, right? If that is the case, I'm gonna change the board RC to a different character. I'm using E here, but really you can use any characters that you want. And then once I do this, I also need to make sure that to change the neighbors, to do the depth search on its neighbor, basically for directionally. And then, so I'm gonna do is RC and all 4 neighbors to continue this depth search function to change the rest that I need to change. If it's a O connected, then I need to change to E as well. So basically R plus 1, R minus 1, C plus 1, and C minus 1. For the depth search function, you don't need to say it's inbound, like check it's inbound. I'm just doing like a condition check like this, but you can also check to say if it's outbound, then how you're gonna do it. But essentially it's the same thing. So right now I'm gonna call the depth search function, but I'm only gonna call the depth search function on the border cell because for the inside, I simply don't need it. So how you run the depth search function on the border cell, right? How you do it is for R in, so either the rows are in the row, rows are in the row 0 or rows in the R rows minus 1. For C in range of cols, for all the columns, basically these two, right? 0 row and last row in all the cell. I'm gonna run, run the depth search for the RC, and then I'm gonna call the depth search function on the left line and the right border, right? So how you do it is for R is that I want to do for all rows, right? But for the column, I only wanted to do 2 column. One is the 0 column, basically is this one. And then this one is cols minus 1. So basically this one here. And then after that, I'm going to call depth search function on this line and this line. So once I run through these 4 loops that I have already run depth search function and changed all the O's into a different character, let's say E, I already flipped them. So then when I change the middle cell, these border cell won't get impacted. So I'm going to show you how to change the middle cell. I simply don't need to use any depth search function for the middle cell. I just need to for R in range of rows and for C in range of cols. So basically every single one, right? So if board RC equals to O in the middle, what I'm gonna do is I'm just simply gonna change the board RC to X, basically the things I want to try to do. But after going through this, right? And remember, we changed these part, the depth of search function, just changed these border cell to E, right? I need to flip them back to the O as it required. So then I'm going to say if the border cell, if whatever the cell it is we're looking at, it's E. It's not necessarily border cell. It could be a cell like right connected to the border. If the cell is E, what I'm going to do is to change the board RC, flip it back to O. This way, I will be able to achieve the final result. I change all the borders to the O, and then middle cell is all flipped into X. Should be right. Let's see. Yep. Okay, I hope this is helpful. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon with more questions.